Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with Joe Rental is a 20-year reflection on the WCW Nitro episode from September 14th, 1998. Shout out to Muggsy Sam on Twitter. Karen, you told me that you were at this show live, and I would love to hear what you have to say, either below in the comments or on Twitter. You and I have talked about it a little bit, but now that I'm doing the review, I would love to hear how big was the energy in that arena, because it came across on TV massively loud. I mean, my God, crowd really wanted Flair, and the crowd was really hot through a good portion of the show. I'd say at least 75% of it. It's coming off the heels of Fall Brawl, of course, which was an average pay-per-view, and I actually have that review up, that 20-year reflection review up, where, yes, I go off a little bit on Warrior being trash in the ring. But start off with loud Larry chants. Larry Zbyszko on commentary had to get up. Usual shtick. He had to get up, bow to the crowd, let them give him adulation, and then they calm down. Only to start We Want Flair chants and Goldberg chants. And this actually was the episode where Ric Flair made his return. Would have been interesting to see what would happen had the lawsuits continued between WCW and Ric Flair. Thankfully, it appears that Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff have put this issue way behind them and have done shows together and podcasts and that kind of stuff. And that is great. It honestly is great, because Eric Bischoff, one hell of a performer, and Ric Flair, arguably the greatest of all time. Now, I still say Bret Hart's the greatest wrestler of all time, but that's my opinion. And Bret Hart does make a couple of appearances here. So, now, this was a pretty good episode. I will say that a lot of the Monday Night War episodes, WCW, Nitro, or Raw, really do get a little bit hard to watch. WCW Thunder especially, since it was treated like a throwaway show very soon after it debuted. And even some of the earlier episodes of SmackDown, while they have their moments, the bottom line is the wrestling products have gotten a lot better now, even with the, at least the in-ring product has gotten a whole lot better. It just, I don't know. Sometimes the wrestling always took a back seat, and that always kind of bothered me, but there were a couple good matches on this that we'll get to. Recaps of Ernest Miller, absolute trash. Alex Wright versus Van Hammer. Ernest Miller interferes in this, kicking Van Hammer in the side of the head. Alex Wright does a little dance, brushes off Ernest Miller, leaves. Doug Dillinger and the cops come down and arrest Ernest Miller, take him out, and that happened. And then you had a Bret Hart interview where he was slamming Hulk Hogan, calling him scum, all that. Piper comes down, says, I was trying to tell you for years that Hogan was bad, months and years. And says, your father can be proud of you, we can be proud of you, and if we can fight it in our hearts to forget Bill Clinton, and the crowd boos, because, Southern fans, that kind of stuff, and also just in general, I mean, that was during the whole scandal thing that they had with Clinton, Bill Clinton, which one? Take your pick. But it was just really funny, just looking back on it and knowing it, having lived through watching that on the news and watching Nitro live at the time. It's just as funny then. It's just funny now as it was then, basically, and that was pretty good stuff. That was really good stuff. And Piper and Bret went their separate ways. Bret talked about a knee injury that he had, and he didn't earn the U.S. title. Of course, this would end up being just a swerve later, not in this episode, but later, as Sting and Bret Hart would face off for the U.S. title Halloween Havoc, and Bret would cheat to win. And then would lose the title to DDP the next night. That was good stuff. In fact, I might actually be doing 20-year reflections of Halloween Havoc 98 and the Nitro right afterwards. It's going to be select stuff eventually, provided that I'm still doing this channel in a couple years, which I should be. It's going to probably turn into a lot of reflection shows, and I'll probably just start reviewing every single Nitro episode, like the 95 episodes and stuff like that, but we'll see what happens. Moving on, Saturn versus Kendall Windham. It was fine, but it was too long. Nothing against Kendall Windham. He was a fine tag team wrestler, not a really good singles wrestler. And in 98, I don't think he meant all that much, except maybe in some southern areas. So he got a decent pop. Saturn really was coming off the momentum of having disbanded the Flock by beating Raven at Fall Brawl the previous night. And it was okay, but it was too long. It felt like Saturn should have beaten Kendall in like 5 minutes, and I think it was like a 10-minute match. But I do criticize how some of these matches go only a few minutes, so it was nice, but of all matches, this one got the longest time. Oh well. Raven, after Saturn pinned Raven, some of the Flock members come down, including Kidman. Raven is Eric Canyon in the crowd and is basically trying to get people to come across to his side again, even though the Flock got disbanded. They were freed, as per the stipulation of the match Fall Brawl. I think Lodi was the only one that went there. Sick Boy went separate ways. Kidman, Saturn talked them all up, basically, all the remaining Flock. Said, hey, all this, you guys are great. Kidman, go get the Cruiserweight title, all that stuff. Complimented Sick Boy. I don't remember Sick Boy doing too much after this, which is a shame because he seemed like a good athlete. Riggs was a damn good wrestler. They didn't seem to do too much with Riggs either, and that was disappointing. Horace Hogan, they did stuff with Horace Hogan. But anyway, here's the whole deal. This was a good deal because Saturn at least praised everybody. And it was a nice way to tie up that little story and all that. So, Wrath then beat the Renegade in a squash, and I know I say it in a lot of WCW reviews when the Renegade pops up. It's such a shame how his life ended. He was, 33, 34? And he took his own life. It's just a shame in general. It just is. But Wrath beat him quickly, and I mean quickly. It was 3 minutes. And then you had Hogan, Bischoff, the Disciple, and Liz in leather. Yes, that's all I gotta say about that, because Miss Elizabeth in leather. Well, come on, what more do you need? Really wish Miss Elizabeth, easy for me to say, was still around. But yeah, you had them talking, and Hogan challenged Warrior at Halloween Havoc and all this kind of stuff, and then the smoke pops in from, to have Warrior make his entrance and stuff like that. Well, the smoke disappears, and then suddenly Warrior's not there, but neither is the Disciple. And that factors in a little bit later. You had Kidman versus Juventud Guerrero in the match of the night. And it was great. After Kidman had gotten a huge pop by drop-kicking Raven and Fall Brawl the previous night. Great match that they had. It was actually supposed to be Kaz Hayashi versus Juventud Guerrero. Kaz Hayashi had an injury. Kaz Hayashi is often forgotten about as being a pretty good worker. What did he do after WCW closed down? I know he was in Impact. Well, TNA Impact a little bit. But what did he do? Did he wrestle mainly in Japan? What company did he wrestle for in Japan after that? I kind of lost track of his career after that. But Kidman and Hoovy had a great match. It was about 9-10 minutes, but it was really high, impactful. Kidman got the victory. Huge pop. I mean, massive pop when he hit the, what used to be 7-year itch, but is now the Shooting Star Press. 1, 2, 3. He wins Cruiserweight title, and it was a great way to launch a star. That's how you launch a guy. Kidman was getting over gradually. He got over right there. They went with a hot hand. He beat Juventud Guerrero, who was established as a great Cruiserweight wrestler and a good Cruiserweight champion. Even if he never held the title that long, it was good stuff, and that's how you build the whole thing with Kidman. That was really, really good, and a massive pop. So yeah, go out of your way. If nothing more, go out of your way to see that match. That match in particular is really fun. And then Bischoff and Eddie had an argument backstage or whatever. I think it was shortly after the coffee thing, where Eddie Guerrero had shown up to the arena to wrestle. Bischoff wasn't going to let him wrestle and was going to send him to Japan. They had a working deal with Japan, which really nice. And Eddie, of course, was off camera asked to change his hairstyle, but he had to mull it over. There's my one stupid joke per list. Actually, no, it's probably my second stupid joke per show. In fact, I'll probably make another one here soon. Then you had the British Bulldog versus the Barbarian with Jimmy Hart at ringside. No, this is not an early 1990s WWF show, and it was WWF back then. Bulldog was still feeling the effects of the back injury after taking awkward bumps on that trapdoor fall brawl with the previous night, and you could see it. And it was really bad. I mean, Bulldog was fighting through it, and credit to him. But, and it's so scary to think Bulldog was, dead less than 4 years after this match took place. Jimmy Hart, by the way, apparently is immortal and hasn't aged in 20 years. I don't mean to say that angrily. Jimmy Hart, one of the best wrestling managers of all time. Thankfully, he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Barbarian, very talented big man as well. Lady Tapa carrying on his legacy. At least that's my opinion. So, Bulldog's back was still hurting. It was sad to watch it. Now, he hit this power slam at one point, and it was such a weak power slam. And I'm not knocking Bulldog, I'm not knocking Barbarian, I'm not knocking anybody. It's just really weak. It was really sad. And he pinned him, and you could just see he was favoring it. I mean, I think he ended up in the hospital soon after this. I mean, I don't know, right after this episode, because I know he wrestled for a bit, but he had all those injuries and stuff like that, the spinal injuries and stuff like that, and it was hard to watch. If you see this, you'll know what I mean. J.J. Dillon had an interview with Mean Gene, talked about Scott Steiner versus Rick Steiner needing to happen in Halloween Havoc, even though Scott Steiner will not be banned from WCW because he technically did face off against Rick Steiner. But then Buff and Scott Steiner did that whole thing at Fall Brawl where Buff faked an injury, and they did an whole ambulance angle, and it was tasteless and stupid. And then, as they're exiting the ring, J.J. Dillon and Mean Gene, you had laughter and lights flashing on and off, and it was Chucky laughing because they were promo. I think it was Bride of Chucky at the time, because they ended up having Chucky and Rick Steiner have a back and forth promo thing soon after this. I want to say it might have been sometime in October to hype the movie. I don't exactly remember. I may watch a couple episodes and remember that, but I know it was sometime around Halloween Havoc. That much I remember. So anyway, yeah, that was pretty stupid. You had Jim Neidhart in the ring. He was going to face off against somebody, and then Smoke. And suddenly the Warrior appears with Disciple on his knees. And during this promo, by the way, not a euphemism, because he actually was. But, you know, he's got all the smoke and stuff like that, and Warrior does that. And, you know, he's got Hogan's barber on his knees. And this whole thing, part of the NWO is coming down, including Hogan, Buff Bagwell, which you could see his hat from space. And okay, just, you know, just watch my back. I'll take care of him, but you take care of Warrior. I'll get Disciple. And Warrior ends up, you know, even at one point standing over Disciple, who is still like on his hands and knees. Ridiculous. It just looks ridiculous. It's like he was going to like kill him like on TV. But he says he accepts Hogan's challenge. Yes, Halloween Havoc 98. Let us never forget, because I'm going to be reviewing that, and I will go off on that match. I'm just going to say this. There were some good matches on that show. I'm going to go off on that fucking match. And in fact, I might even have that one up a little bit earlier. I might have that one up a couple weeks before the actual show happens. But yeah, it was really, really shit. But he accepts Hogan's challenge and this kind of stuff, and babbles on, and the OWN One Warrior Nation, and it was shit. Then you had Silver King and Norman Smiley versus Scott Steiner with Buff Bagwell. It was a handicap match, and that's how you just, you know, knock two guys down. I mean, they were mid-card guys at best, but it was quick and pointless. Scott Steiner does a double Steiner recliner on both guys, but then is favoring his back. He did have back problems at that point. I can't imagine why. Can't have anything to do with the amount of muscle mass he had. Can't imagine what it was. But Scott Steiner ends up, you know, beating Norman Smiley and Silver King. It was what it was. And then the Giant versus Ming, and a match that was maybe 3 minutes, but it was entertaining. Because it was just two big guys just fucking no-selling the shit out of it. I mean, Giant sold a couple kicks that Ming had, but they were just hammering each other. Giant was hammering Ming, chopping Ming, and Ming is just like fucking no-selling the whole damn thing. Because Ming, even now, is still one of the toughest guys. Ming Haku. One of the toughest guys still. I don't care if he's in his 50s. I would not mess with that guy. I wouldn't mess with that guy, you know, even in his 80s. Provided he lives that long. Hopefully he does. But and the Sons are carrying on his legacy quite well. This is good stuff. Even if it was a quick match, I mean, Giant ended up pinning Ming, like I said, after 3 minutes. He ended up hitting the choke slam after Ming had tried Tongan Death Grip. Giant had a longer reach. Choke slam, 1, 2, 3. It was still entertaining. It's just like a 3 minute, like just bam, 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 you know, just big guys hitting each other. And then Scott Hall had a promo while Vincent was there, more drunk stuff. And Scott Hall versus Luger, more drunk stuff. This was really tasteless shit. I mean, this really was fucking tasteless. I will actually be talking about this on Wrestling's Most Tasteless about WCW. I don't think it's going to be the next episode, but it will be like, you know, episode 3 or 4. So if you can think of tasteless stuff that WCW did, feel free to leave them in the comments. Also leave your thoughts on this show. You know, and what you thought of the review and what you thought of the show in general. But yeah, leave some WCW Most Tasteless stuff on here, because I want to add to that, because right now I only have like 2 or 3 things that they've done, and I know that they did way more. So yeah, Scott Hall versus Luger, it really was like just ridiculous, because Scott Hall kept just doing the whole passing out thing or being drunk, and you even had Bischoff come out at one point trying to talk to Scott Hall. Nash, Conan, Nash, Hall's best friend, even though they're on warring sides with the whole NWO Wolfpack and Black and White. I hated that feud because it never went anywhere and it was pointless, but, you know, the Wolfpack and Black and White, I mean, it was what it was. It was such in bad taste, though. I know Hall had a lot of problems. Thankfully, he is clean from them now, seemingly, and doing the best he can to be sober. It's just got to be difficult to be sober, you know, have sobriety and all that stuff and everything. As addiction is tough. As I've been told. I've never actually been addicted to anything. But this was a pretty tasteless thing. And then you have the big moment. Arn, J.J. Dillon, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, and Steve Mongo McMichael in the ring. And the whole thing where Arn's talking up the Horsemen, talking up the reforming of the Horsemen and everything. And, you know, he does a whole passion thing, talking about Benoit, Malenko, Mongo, and that kind of stuff. Mongo was gone from the company soon after this, which is kind of funny. But Arn at one point like, oh, what a goof. He's hitting himself in the head. He's like, I get accused of getting hit in the head a few times and having a little touch of Alzheimer's. My God, I almost forgot the fourth horseman. Ric Flair, get on down here. And I can't do it like Arn can. Arn, such an impassioned promo. Huge pop for Flair. Massive love from the crowd. Almost seemingly a hometown crowd. I mean, home state crowd. But the bottom line is Ric Flair is almost beloved everywhere, but especially in the South. Huge pop. Huge impassioned promo. Knocking Eric Bischoff and everything. Saying the Horsemen are back. This may be by one shot. I'm going to make it count. Calling him an asshole. Egotistical asshole. Saying he's a no good son of a bitch when Bischoff appears on camera and tries to rush the ring. Even though he goes to the ring, realizes probably not the best idea without backup, aka a SWAT team, with how pissed Rick was. And Rick probably would have torn him apart, even though they sort of were to come to an impasse and everything, or come to a common ground on it. There is still a lot of heat there. You could tell, you could feel it, and it was great. Rick did that. It was a great pop, and it was a great moment. So that's worth checking out on this show. And then DDP is on commentary for the next match, which is Sting versus Goldberg. And let me tell you this, for all the talk the WCW had of Goldberg being super over, be this, being that, for the entire length of time until Nash beat him, a lot of people forget. And sometimes I've glossed over it. Goldberg was getting booed almost after he won the title. But especially here, because he was facing WCW's Golden Boy, their icon, Sting. And he was no-selling quite a bit of it. I mean, granted, that's what Goldberg was supposed to do, but the crowd was booing Goldberg. There were cheers for Goldberg. There were cheers for both guys. But Sting was getting cheered 100% more than Goldberg. And I don't think it's because of Doctored Audio or whatever. It just was, they weren't able to hide the fact that some fans were getting tired of Goldberg. And, yeah, all this going on, there was no selling, there was some boos, but there was still a very, very big fight atmosphere. Really, really good fight. Goldberg and Sting had a really good TV match. I mean, Sting actually probably got Goldberg's best TV match to that point. That might, maybe with the exception of the Hogan-Goldberg match that they had in yesterday, a 20-year reflection on that, the one where Goldberg won the title like a couple months before this. But then you have Hogan run down, and you got this moment, it's like, okay, Sting's got Scorpion Deathlock on Goldberg. The referee is facing Goldberg and everything and looking. Now, Hogan gets in behind the referee's back, but clearly, even though the ref is looking right at Goldberg's face and making sure he doesn't, it's not the ropes or whatever, he's still got to have enough vision to where he'll see somebody kick Sting in the head, and it was Hogan to kick Sting in the head. Yet somehow the ref didn't call for the bell. And it looks so stupid. Because even though, I guess maybe, it was just the way the camera shot was done or something like that, or just the way it was all done, but it was really, really stupid. But soon after, Sting ends up getting hit with a spear and jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. Crowd cheered a little bit for Goldberg, but did boo the finish. They weren't happy. They weren't happy because they saw Sting get beat. But what happened is Goldberg was getting beat down by Hogan. Bret Hart runs down, injured knee and all, chases off Hogan, limping and stuff like that. Because Bret did have a lot of injuries in the last couple years of his life, his career. Sorry, he's still very much alive, thankfully. Thankfully, Bret Hart's still very much alive. His career in the ring. I don't know why I said live. That was really, really good stuff, though. It was a good finish, even though I don't necessarily care for Hogan. They were trying to interwove storylines of Hogan was wanting to get back at Goldberg, but he had to take care of Warrior first, and they were setting up the whole thing with maybe Goldberg and Bret, even though that didn't work, and it was pretty shit. But this was a good finish, even though I didn't like the fact that Sting, Sting got beat because of shenanigans, but the crowd turning a little bit against Goldberg was a really nice prelude to what was going to happen later. So anyway, yeah, this was a fun show. There were some matches that were shit, but it was a fun show. It was much better than some of the Nitros I've reviewed. So, but anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe also, and my Twitter handle's in the description if you'd like to. But also, if you guys did attend a live show, please let me know in the comments what you think. So, it's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin, and I will see you soon.